Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely appreciate your patience in putting up with all this background information. It's important to go through some of these parameters so that we are all on the same page with respect to some of the basic principles of the inhalant anesthesia systems. But now we're ready to light this candle and actually take a live mouse and anesthetize it. Before we get going and handling the subject, however, I'd like to give you a heads up as to some of the procedural things that need to be done before you even put the animal in the induction chamber. First, make sure that we have a supply of the carrier gas, the oxygen. Make sure that the oxygen tank is on. Look at the gauge on the tank and ensure that you have enough oxygen to do the procedure that you want to do. Turn on the oxygen flow meter to 1 liter per minute flow, and ensure that the flow of oxygen is coming out of the flow meter. Look at your vaporizer and ensure that you have sufficient liquid anesthetic in the vaporizer to conduct your procedure that you wish to do. And ensure that the diverter valve has the stopcock for the non-rebreathing system in the off position and the stopcock for the induction chamber to the on position. What this is doing now is delivering 100% oxygen into this chamber. And now we're ready to put our mouse into the chamber. Now I have our willing partner here that we're going to anesthetize, and I'll put him into the induction chamber. And remember, the induction chamber right now only has 100% oxygen in it. I'll let him just rest on the bottom right now. Close the lid down. And now that he's secure inside the induction chamber, I can start my anesthetic process. Because we have 100% oxygen in here, it's going to take a while to equilibrate this chamber if we just administer 2% concentration. So initially, for about the first minute, what we're going to do is administer approximately 3.5 or 4% concentration. That will help to equilibrate this chamber quicker, and we can watch the physiological signs of the animal to see how he's doing and how he's reacting to the inhalant anesthetic. What we often see, they get curious when they begin to smell the inhalant anesthetic coming in from this side. And as this guy is doing right now, he's just kind of hanging around here. Every once in a while he takes a sniff. In about 30 seconds to about 45 seconds, we should see him start to go through the excitation phase where he might defecate and urinate. And then in the period of about 45 seconds to a minute, he'll start to lose his righting reflex. He'll start to get wobbly. And I'm going to turn him down now to the 2.5% level and allow him to equilibrate. You can see he's kind of like some folks we see coming out of a bar on Saturday night, late at night, and he's in that excitation phase right there a little bit. But as soon as he loses his righting reflex and he stops his movement, we can consider that he is beginning to become anesthetized. We have several different planes of anesthesia, but in this particular case, what we look for to ensure that the animal's in the surgical plane of anesthesia is, number one, no movement. Number two, we see his respiratory rate drop. We can see his heart rate drop. And probably the best key is if I try to turn him over by tilting the induction chamber, he won't respond and he won't try to right himself. Once the animal is equilibrated in here, and we like to allow him about another 30 seconds to a minute to become equilibrated with the inhalant anesthetic, we'll close off the flow of the inhalant anesthetic from the induction chamber and open up the flow to the non-rebreathing system. And now I'm going to open up the induction chamber and take the animal out. Before I open the induction chamber, I like to turn off my vaporizer and allow oxygen to flow for just a few moments to help remove some of that anesthetic that's in the chamber and push it to my waste gas evacuation system. We won't remove all of the inhalant anesthetic out of here, but it just helps a little bit to get some of that gas out of the induction chamber. I have a few moments to work with the animal like that. I'm going to turn on my non-rebreathing system. I'm going to turn my vaporizer back on to 2.5% concentration, and I'm going to put my mouse into the non-rebreathing system here. And it may take just a moment for him to equilibrate again because he's been allowed to breathe room air for the last 15 seconds or so. And so I just want to make sure that his muzzle is approximated properly in the non-rebreathing system. And I want to make sure that he's anesthetized, and I'm watching his breathing pattern, and I'm watching his movement. And there's another thing we can do, and that's the toe pinch reflex. I can see that he's not responding to the toe pinch reflex. And he has a nice pink color, and he looks pretty good here. So I'm going to turn him down to that 2.5% level. And if you wish, you could restrain the animal using little tie downs. You could prep the animal here if you wanted, and do your surgical procedure on the animal. These little guys are obligatory nose breathers when they're in their sternal recumbency. There's no problem, and you don't have to put his whole head or his whole mouth inside of the non-rebreathing nose cone. It's simply getting his nares in there. If you have the animal on the dorsal recumbency, however, we urge you to have the nose and the mouth inside the nose cone, because there's an opportunity for them to do some mouth breathing. If they mouth breathe and their mouth is outside the nose cone of the face mask, then there's a tendency for them to draw in room air and dilute down the concentration of anesthetic, and they'll have a tendency to wake up on you. So here we have, at this 2.5% concentration, a fully, completely anesthetized animal in which you can do whatever surgical procedure you wish to do on them. So we were able to anesthetize our little friend here, and as you notice, we could bring him from the ambulatory state to the surgical plane of anesthesia in approximately 2 minutes. Now I'd like to reverse that process and show you just how quickly these animals recover. It's absolutely remarkable to me, and I've seen animals that have been anesthetized for hours. And we take them off the non-rebreathing system, put them into a recovery chamber or the induction chamber that we used on 100% oxygen, and they recover within 2 minutes, and it's the darndest thing I've ever seen. It's so remarkable and makes the recovery process so much more efficient. The investigator doesn't have to sit there for hours while they're waking from injectables. It's just a great, great process. So what I'm going to do now is turn off my vaporizer so that we're not administering any more inhalant anesthetic. I'm going to turn on the stopcock for the induction chamber. So now I have 100% oxygen going in there, and I'm going to turn off the non-rebreathing system. So I'll take my little friend and I'll put him into the induction chamber. Remember, we just have 100% oxygen in there right now. There might be some residual anesthetic in there that will allow him to breathe a slight amount of inhalant anesthetic. But we should see this little guy within approximately 2 minutes up and walking around in the cage. It's important not to have any bedding materials in here. It's nice to have a little towel in there so that we can absorb the urine and the feces. It's nice not to have any other animals in here so that there's no cannibalism that's going on. Excuse me. Our oxygen flow rate is still at a liter per minute flow, and now you can see he's starting to move his tail. His eyes are opening, his ears are moving. He is starting to become recumbent. See his tail wiggling now? I said recumbent and I meant he's starting to become active, excuse me. His tail's wiggling, and if I were to agitate him just a little bit, we just might see that he would try to stand up or try to right himself, which he has done right now. We'll allow him just a little bit more time to get up and forget. There he goes. He's moving his head now. He's very definitely trying to stay right here rather than fall over, and we should see him running around here in just a moment. And there he goes. He is up and around. It's like magic, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely astounded every time I see this. But now that he's ambulatory, we can put him back in with his cage mates and not worry so much about cannibalism and or aspiration pneumonia. Thank you very, very much for attending this very intricate video presentation, and we hope to see you out in the field one of these days. I travel all around the United States, and it'll be my pleasure to visit your facility.